Today's guest retired as a sergeant major, top 1% of the Marines, but what most people don't know is that he actually started his first business while he was still actively serving. He literally had to keep the whole thing secret, running missions by day and building a tiny house store at night. So fast forward, he becomes our first ever student of the year here at Dropship Breakthru. He builds the longest running mastermind in our community, and now he's our partner on Yard Patriots, which is already taking off. Today we're unpacking how he pulled this off, what really happens when you transition out of the military into entrepreneurship, and why the second chapter of Yard Patriots might be the thing he was meant to do all along. What's up, Rob? Thanks for coming on the show, buddy.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the invite. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
All right, walk me through, because I'm ignorant. My military knowledge is literally Call of Duty, and that is it, and maybe a little bit of Battlefield at this point. But walk me through your military career, buddy. What does a sergeant major actually even do day to day? What kind of responsibility sits on your shoulders at that level?
So you're the senior enlisted leader for about 1,000 people. It depends on the command a little bit. So structure-wise, we had 5 companies under us. Each company had about little under 200 people with their own little command structure. So if you can imagine, from the small point, there's 3 dudes in a fire team, and there's 3 fire teams in a squad, and then there's 3 squads in a platoon, and there's 3 platoons in a company, and then there's 5 companies in a battalion. You have all these leadership structures, and at the end of the day, when you're training or fighting a war, you need to empower the people at the lowest level, but they are also the people with the smallest voice. It's you want the dude that can run in, shoot guns, get shot at, but they're the 18-year-olds, so they don't have a voice of their own. So what you need to have is, kind of like the dad, the father figure or mother figure that can help take care. So, as I continue to go up in rank, the Marine Corps has a structure where you either be, in the enlisted side, you stay a technical expert, which is my specialty was making bombs. I was a combat engineer, or blowing stuff up, or landmine warfare, or constructing things. So I can either get really good at doing those things, or I can get really good at and focus on taking care of the Marines. So the taking care of the Marines is just, you take care of more and more. You take care of, you're the fire team leader, you take care of 3, you're the platoon sergeant. You're okay, not only do I need to make sure that they have all their gear and they're packed, but, sometimes it's as stupid as hey man, why don't you have socks? It is in your best interest. We're going to the field to take socks. And you're literally trying to look at these minute details. At the, higher levels, you might be making sure that they get paid for where they went, or that the person that was bad to them gets disciplined, or the people that are making bad decisions stop making bad decisions in your unit. So day to day, to answer that portion of the question, you end up working at that highest echelon, and they say that you spend 90% of your time on the worst 10%. So what happens is someone messed up. Well, you can't have that be the normal. So someone had a DWI, someone made bad decisions, and you're ensuring that it's not painting a bad picture for the service, or you're advising, what legal route are we going to take with this? And then at the same time, you're trying to take care of the best. So you're saying this dude or dudette is the number one. We need to get them promoted. We need to get them awarded. We need to, ensure that they have, the best opportunities to advance. So you're trying to do these, but you're always going to be sucked apart of the worst part of it. So day to day, dealing with a bunch of paperwork, trying to spend time with the people that you've lost a little touch with, and make sure that they're taken care of and have a good voice.
Well, you're retired now, right? So what parts of that world shaped you the most, right? You were doing that for quite a while. Was it the leadership, the standards, the tempo, the fact that everyone's looking to you? What parts of that world have you taken from that and brought into entrepreneurship or into the civilian world?
I feel like this is the cliche-ish thing, but the people are the best part of it. Marine Corps serving overall. I mean, you literally are hanging out with people that have written their name in a contract to say, if all goes to hell, I'm willing to lay my life on the line to defend our country. And whether or not they made a bad decision about a DWI, they still have in their heart and soul, I am willing to fight for this country and die for this country. And so one of the things that I will say I actually struggle with years, having the purpose, have a small team, a fire team, if you will, of people that I know you see that work with, and I like them. They're good people and working together, but it's not as easy to say like, hey, here's this big overarching mission that, we're going to take care of America. We're going to fight for our freedom. But that piece of it was always something that resounded with me. I try to think of my organization as people centric. And so I hope that I am able to take that away. I try not to be the micromanager. I think there's a lot that goes into that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think a lot of guys and gals retire in their 30s and 40s. I've got a brother-in-law who's his eyes are set on his retirement as well, who's in the military, and you hear from some of them that they suddenly lose the structure or the mission they've had their entire time. Like, how did that hit you, and what did that transition actually feel like, moving into the civilian world and entrepreneurship world?
Transition wise, I really expected that when I retired, that there's like huge amount of time that was just going to be like, okay, cool. I'm no longer doing any Marine Corps stuff. And then I'd have like a bunch of time. It's like, okay, what am I going to do? But it just, life engulfs it. It finds a way to eat it. So, like now I'm doing more with my daughter's dance, and obviously spending more time into the business and able to spend more energy and focus than I ever have been able to before there, and do more things that are family centric. But I will say it's neat because I definitely talked to some friends that have retired, and it's like, what are you doing now? And it's like, well, and the real answer is not much. Waiting to die, which sounds terrible. I talked to some of the older retired guys, and it's like, how do you spend your day? And it's like the real answer is like they spend their day watching like cowboy and Indian movies and watching the news. And I'm like, that sounds pretty close to hell to me. Like I don't want to watch that every single day. Watching reruns of an old Western that I saw. I mean, don't get me wrong, love a good Western, but I don't want to spend my golden years doing that. Like I'd rather, obviously I'm spending my time building something that is meaningful to me, that are serving customers that I like. So I think that's been my transition plan.
Walk me through that, right? So when did entrepreneurship like actually show up on your radar? I know you've told me in the past you had a little product on Amazon as well, but like, did you do any side hustles? Did you have any money making schemes? I know for a lot of people, this shows up early in childhood, whether you know it or not, right? For me, at 10 years old, I had a paper route. I was delivering the Eau Claire Leader telegram at 6 a.m. on weekends and 4 p.m. after school, riding my bike. I was mowing every lawn in the neighborhood I could. We grew up relatively poor, and I kind of took it upon myself, like, I'm going to go figure this out. I'm going to go make money. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but the signs were there that I wanted to do this stuff. I wanted to take control. I wanted to be a leader. And so did they show up for you as a kid? Was there anything showing up there? Or like when did entrepreneurship like first show up in your radar?
I don't think I have the kid story of I was trying to sell this or do this. I grew up on a small farm in Maryland. My dad died before I was born, so I was, my mom was, single mom, 3 kids. I can't say we had easy way to do a lot of things. That said, though, my example was always my grandmother, who she owned 2 companies. She's 95 and still works today, which blows my mind. And she doesn't have to, but she like that's her people are there. Like it is like she goes to work to hang out with people that she's known for 60, 70 years. So she owns 2 companies. One of them is literally my great grandfather's name. And like, I was asking her the story about it. And the long story short of it was that he was just too old to get drafted for World War II. And so because of that, he was at this age where he was super capable, but he wasn't going to get forced to go to war. And he already had a business. And then he just started, just making connections and helping people. He'd be helping the farmer over here that needed more supplies but didn't have enough rations, and then going somewhere else. And I guess he ended up like running a like Nazi prisoner camp, and like it was a crazy story. But the entrepreneur piece, I can't tell you that I started selling baseball cards at a young age, but it was always part of it from a family side. Personally, my first memory of it is when I was in college down in North Carolina, and I was taking an entrepreneur class, and I fucking loved it. It was when I was like, wow, we can create whatever we want, and like creating a business plan, and what is this going to look like? And I remember talking to the guy Stephen Harper. He's a cool guy that was running it. And he's like, what kind of business do you want to start? What do you want to sell? And I'm like, I don't know. There's so many things out there. Like, I don't want to just sell one thing. Like, I would like to do a lot. And, this is 2004. This is before Amazon was really a thing, or, the big internet retail that was the way it was. I think we had eBay was probably the big piece there. But I don't think I could imagine the structure that we have today, but done a lot of dabbling on the side since then. But that was the first that I can remember.
You just described why I love entrepreneurship, and like why it spoke to me is there's a lot of people who like to complain about this and that and the other thing. There's no shortage of complaining in today's world. You can't open up any app without seeing someone complaining. And for me, the stuff they're complaining about is literally fixed by entrepreneurship. It's fixed by true capitalism, maybe not the crony capitalism we all live in, but like real capitalism where like the market is the market. You can just fucking create what you want. And then you can, if you're mad about how people treat their employees, go create a business and treat employees better. Like if you're mad about how a product is or how it interacts with you, if there's a problem you want solved in the world, you can just go solve it rather than sit there and complain about it. And so look, I love entrepreneurship. You could get me started down a rabbit hole speaking on that, but I wish I would have found it sooner. If I'm honest with you, I wish I would have found it back then. But when did you actually decide you want to build something on your of your own, right? When did you actually pull the trigger on that? Because I know about your little blanket thing on Amazon, and maybe we could talk about that. But was there something more?
So the first one, probably most technically the first one would be I wanted to get out of, or I wanted to transition from a corporate job that I had in like 2008. So shortly after college, and went to become a realtor. So still within an organization, but more control. I think they consider themselves entrepreneurs. You could argue that, but it was the first time that I didn't have a dedicated paycheck. That it was I needed to make my own way there. And honestly, it was learning sales is a really hard thing. I commend a lot of people in our Holly and a lot of people in our course for that.
When did you find like high ticket drop shipping, right? Like obviously you did Amazon FBA, you threw some blankets up there. I'm assuming maybe you took a course on that. Walk me through that transition there.
Yeah. So I think that was 2014. I took, was it private label? I don't remember the course name, but I took that one, and then I think Amazing Selling Machine was another for Amazon. So I took a couple courses to understand, probably paralysis by analysis, trying to learn too much and learn everything before getting started, as I think is a common thing. Started selling. They were pocket blankets. I should have brought one with me, but they're really cool. I still like them. I still use them. So little blankets that sourced them out of China. Got had all the pieces and different styles come in. Had them changed to how I wanted them to look. Get the brand logo. Start up. Launch. Sold them on there for a while. Didn't make a lot of profit, but great learning experience. Also did some wholesaling on Amazon, where I'd buy from one company, throw it on Amazon, do the product pages and whatnot. I didn't even think of it as a product page at that point. Make it a better product page, and get the buy boxes. We all get to there. I started with, or I went down the path of learning low ticket drop shipping. Did not like the and going through the courses and being like, oh, okay, so I'm trying to find these stores and then chase this and then throw it on Instagram or TikTok, and here's the winning product. And that did not resonate with me at all. But it was a learning piece, and then rolled that into at some point. I don't know how I found you guys' podcast, but I am a podcast junkie. I believe in maximizing my time. So if I'm in the car or in the saunas we were just talking about, or in the gym, I might have a really angry look on my face when I'm in the gym and trying to pump iron, but I'm probably listening to a book on tape or a podcast that is hopefully making me smarter, better, all those things. So found you guys. It's been a neat ride.
I generally don't understand how people aren't podcast people. Like when I tell people how much I listen, they first off they ask how, right? Because I put in a lot of time, but it's not. I listen at 2.5x. That's just how fast my brain's moving. I don't want to listen to Joe Rogan talk. Like it doesn't make sense to me how anyone listens at 1x, if I'm honest with you. So I'm at 2.5x, right? So I'm already listening to double what most people do. I've got a 10-minute shower, I've got 20 minutes in the sauna, I've got a 10-minute drive here, 10-minute drive home. Like, that adds up really quick. Like that's, let alone a walk, right? That's an hour and a half of real time where I'm putting in, 3 hours of podcast time, right? So there's a few shows I don't miss. There's a few shows I like, but I'm always learning. And I don't know. I don't understand what other people do. Like, do you, like, you're a podcast junkie like me. What is maybe music? I guess I listen to music all day long while I'm sitting here working. So I'm not listening to a podcast while I'm working. But if I was at the gym, I'd be listening to a podcast. If wherever I am, it's almost always a podcast.
In 2007-ish, I took a stock market course through a guy named Gary Williams. A neat guy, but one of he just talked about having the driving university of anytime you're in the car, like why would you not be learning? So, and I took that from that point on, and Audible transitioned me into podcasts. And
yeah, books are hard. I try to do books, but you can clearly tell it's like somebody reading a book, and so that just drives me insane when you can tell it's someone reading rather than like a podcast feels more natural and more fluid. And anyway, thank you for listening to our podcast. That was a shout out for all the podcast lovers out there. Like I love it, man. So I got to ask, like early on, did you wrestle with whether you should be doing this or not doing this? Like while you're actively serving, I want to make sure I use the right phrases here. Like, were you wrestling with that at all?
So from a time perspective, yeah, I mean, I was in the reserves as you well know. So I had a W-2 and then had my reserves, and then having a job on the side and having a family. Probably most of the struggle was, do I want to devote the time here? Because, as I talked about the structure of, all the different pieces when you move up, reserves is crazy because you get, you work 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, except all the times that you're working in between. So what ends up happening is, I said you spend 90% of the time with the lowest 10%. So that 10% would have some kind of problem, or there'd be some requirement that's due on a Tuesday and that doesn't wait for a weekend. So several hours a day were coming for reserve stuff, some kind of, I would often get more emails from reserve stuff than I would get from my W-2. And it would kick my ass. And then doing, my tiny home store on the side it was an afterthought. And if I had to prioritize, I always put the Marine Corps first, and then there'd be W-2 stuff. And then, because I need to pay bills so I could take care of family, and family stuff, I still try not to take away from family. I hate to not say that family is first, but I think we all get it. And so those were my musts. And then I wanted to build this thing, and the biggest concern for me was attention.
Walk me through the early phases then, right? So you're busy with the military. You're busy with your job. You've got a family, right? Your wife's also in the military. I assume that brings its own challenges as well. But like, you probably also are fighting the same thing everyone else is fighting who's listening to this or who has started, is the demon inside your head, right? That is giving you all the reasons that maybe this won't work, or this isn't for me, or I shouldn't be doing this. What was your early BS? Because we all have it in some way, shape, or form. Mine was, who am I to be selling this stuff? Who am I to be calling these suppliers? Why would they work with me? Like a lot of usual suspects, but what was yours?
So, I think mine are a little different. I still do have the time with mindset coaches. Shout out to Valentina, she's pretty awesome. Mine usually aren't around like, can I be successful or can I do this thing? Mine were probably more like, BK and Jon are fucking scams. Like they like, why, like, did they actually make anything? Like, who are these assholes? Like, why don't they show me their store if they do this? Like, oh, Wayback Machine, anyone could say that. So like, mine was more, you guys are probably scams than can I do it? And I guess maybe that leads into it, because if you guys were scams and don't have a model, then the model doesn't work. So maybe my concern was a secondary one based on that. But yeah, my biggest concern was you guys were scams, as with any course.
Valentina is clearly helping you think straighter though, right? Because you can look back and realize that it was just self-sabotage. You were looking for a reason that this couldn't work, right? You wanted to stay where you are. Your brain wants you to stay where you are. Change is hard. You have other people telling you it's not going to work. You were looking for a reason to sabotage your efforts, right? There was a part of you yearning that, man, I need something different. Something needs to change. But yet you were still looking for it. We all find a way. It's very interesting. I've never heard this one, but like that is totally self-sabotage of you wanting Jon and I to be a scam. And no doubt there are plenty of people out there who aren't, the most trustworthy characters who are selling things, but like you were looking for a reason for this not to work, which is kind of funny to me, honestly.
I guess I can see that as a thought pattern. I think every time I think we all get the ads of like, hey, here's the next biggest thing, and you're talking about it on your new podcast that Low Bar podcast. Like I know you're talking about it, and like each thing, like anytime I see it, like the person coming up like, hey, I made fill in the blank money with with this amount of time. Like my immediate thought pattern is like, oh, like you're probably a liar, or that's a rented Lambo, or all those things. And so I guess I never attributed that was the mindset into my success. I think I was always looking at it as like you being one of the they were scams.
I got to ask though, one of my favorite questions I get to ask when we do interviews like this is first sale questions. For me, I've told it before. I was butt naked. It was midnight. I had to work at 4 a.m. I ran out of my bed butt naked and jumped up and down in the living room. And my wife thought I was crazy. I am a little crazy. Do you remember your first sale? Was there any like big moment there? I'm sure you remember it, but like any fantastical story to share?
I didn't get picked up for Sergeant Major my first time around, and I looked at it as like, you know what, like it's probably my time. I put in for my retirement paperwork, and I was like, cool, like that'll be my thing. Filed for my VA, all the stuff, and then the promotion boards came out. And I think even before I did that, like when I was waiting to retire was when like I signed up for like the courses and stuff, because I knew I didn't have enough capacity. And so like whatever. So when I was waiting to retire, like I also signed up for this course. Promotion boards came out. One of my buddies calls me and he's like, hey, Rob, guess what? I was like, what's going on, man? I was like, did you get selected? Because he was getting looked at for promotion. He's like, I did. He's like, and you did too. I was like, oh, okay. Like it wasn't part of my plan. I was like, cool. And it's not something that I didn't want. It was just like, I'm past my 20 years, like time to transition. I need to spend time with family. So I obviously accepted that, and I continued to started to build the store. I think I talked to you before how the first couple of months I had paid for a service to make my store, and that just took extra time than I thought it would. So it took like, I think it took like 6 months, whatever, not here or there. Anyway, because of that, I'd gone I was then promoted, and I was in my, like, you like, here's where we talk to you about being either a commander or the senior listed advisor. And so I'm in this, I'm in training up in Quantico, and this is being led by 3- and 4-star generals, and our commandant is there. And, we're literally talking about, the next fight and how to make sure your battalion is aligned, and, getting the bigwig perspective. We had a lunch session, which was done by like a Medal of Honor winner, and that had just finished. And I think I was listening to him fully, and it just finished, and I'm like shoving food in my face, and got a call from a guy that had questions about a refrigerator for his RV that I had on my store. And I pulled out my laptop, finished it out with him, and it was like a $500 profit, like while I'm sitting there on my lunch break from this course, and I'm making more on that 5-minute phone call than I did the entire day there, which is absolutely mind blowing.
Well, we've done this before. So Rob and I have recorded a podcast in May of 2023 where we talked about this tiny house store, right? You got to $50,000 a month in revenue in month 6. I'm not sure if you were still actively serving at that time or not, if I'm honest, but you didn't know that 2 months later, our first ever live event in Minneapolis, you'd get those 2 awards that are sitting back there, right? Or you'd get one of the 2 awards. So we named you Student of the Year. And I want to highlight that. I actually want to know from your point of view, what does that mean, right? We saw in you some of the stuff that probably came from the military, right? You were in the Slack all the time answering people's questions. You were helping people. You were willing to hop on a call with somebody when they needed help. There's a reason we singled you out of that room, but like it wasn't because of your revenue, right? There's certainly people in that room who were doing way bigger numbers than you were doing at the time, but it had to do with what we saw in you, right? And so like, can you share from your side what did that mean to you?
I'll start off with obviously that was your first event, so I didn't know there was a Student of the Year award, and I don't think you knew that either. So certainly wasn't working towards let me get extra kudos or stars or brownie points. I like that you guys have a community. We have a community. It's a group thing. I love that it's something where we don't compete. just the same as the mastermind. There's all these different people, and even some of them, shout out to Bill. Like we had overlap, and like happy to help. Literally look at the store for things that I'm competing with him on, and he's like, "Hey man, you should add this to your store because it's a great seller of mine." Knowing that that might take a sale away from him, like the unselfishness in our group is amazing. And my portion of that, usually the questions that I would see, it'd be something that I just solved or I just learned or I thought it was super easy to answer. So, cool. Like even I think 3 days ago, one of the guys had a question and he's like, I don't know how to do this. And I was like, hey, you want to hop on a call? 3 minutes, and at the end of it, he's like, dude, I didn't even think about it. It's great perspective. And I like that we can work together while working separately. I think I said this on the last podcast. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you need to have a group. You need to have support. And like, I love our group. Like it is pretty amazing. I love my mastermind more, but yeah, it's neat to have that, and I want to support that way. I don't know if I might not answer as many, hey, brand newbie question, I'm trying to pick my niche. I might not answer that one as much anymore because you and I both know that a lot of those people, they go away after 2 weeks because they lose interest and they never even open the course. So I might not answer as many of those, but if someone's been around for a couple months and is asking legit questions, I'm happy to help them.
It's interesting to watch our community evolve, right? We started in the beginning because it was so powerful for Jon and I. And now you got the people who are, I don't want to say aging out, but I remember being at that point where it's like, okay, I can't answer this question for the 400th time. You probably have a little empathy for Jon and I answering that question for the 400th time or doing the 400th podcast. I believe this is like 402. Saying a lot of the same stuff, right? But community was important to me when I started this, and I'm glad you remember that. I'm glad you give as much as you do now, and I'm glad you gave as much as you did in 2023. That's why you were Student of the Year. You also run a mastermind that I believe has been around since that event. Is that where your mastermind started?
Oh, it was before that event. It was October of 22.
Well, I can't think of anyone else who's been still doing that. I know a lot of groups that formed out of the course I took, 12 years ago or 11 years ago, whatever it was. Obviously, I met Jon through there. Him and I have a long-standing connection, but it's pretty rare. Like usually you kind of fade apart, right? What is it about your mastermind where people actually show up every single week? And look, you did it in our Slack, so I have to be a member of it. So I'm lurking there, and I see, you keep a rigid schedule, right? You have this like project manager attitude about it. But what do you see? What do you think is the reason this sticks together the way it has?
Before you said the end part, I was like, you need to ask them because they're the ones showing up. I'm going to be there either way. The mastermind has been there since then, but the people have changed. The group we have now has not changed in over a year, but at the very beginning it did. And you mentioned the maturing in October 22. That's also when I had my first sale. So my store was brand new. A couple of the people that were on were also brand new, either pre-revenue or, early on. And so, with that, that's the most common time for people to fall out as well. So we were all kind of at the same point then. And so what I would continue to do is if someone stopped showing up or stopped giving a crap, I would replace them. I'd have a tough conversation of like, hey, I notice you're being late or you're not showing up. If this is not a thing for you, like that's perfectly fine. I believe the mastermind theory came from Think and Grow Rich, which I believe is more than rich as in monetary, but like rich as in wealthy, greater above that. So like I love the idea to bounce thoughts off of other really smart people. And as I mentioned a second ago, the idea that none of these people are really directly competing with me. Like I don't have to take away from their success for me to be successful. And so it's wonderful because we can grow together. I will say the mastermind has not just shifted people, it's also shifted format and times and everything else. And I'd like to think that I'm more of the organizer and shepherd there than I am the dictator and rigid project manager. But different perspectives for sure. We had the conversation, and honestly, we're coming up at the end of the year, so I'm probably going to ask them again. Like, hey, do you like the format? Do we want to change anything? How long we meet, or what we're talking about, or any of those things? But to your point, I literally took the structure out of Think and Grow Rich. My very first meeting, I had the quote of "Here's what a mastermind is," and how it's supposed to be structured, and that was the first starting point. And then from there, it's the discussion of like, hey, what do we want to talk about? How do we want to change? I try to be respectful of people's times, just like they want to be respectful of me, I hope. So I do try to keep it to an hour just because, if people want to talk, like there's nothing stopping from Rob to call BK and be like, hey, man, I want to discuss something with you, but I try to be respectful of the time there where it's not just a BS session. So I think we're all friends, but at the same time, like we are here for a purpose, and I'd like for people to be able to schedule around like, hey, I have something to do after this, and I can actually do it. Everyone there's friendly. I have hard conversations when people aren't showing up or aren't added value, so we replace people. We've also had discussions when people weren't pulling their weight and saying like, hey, as a group, do we want to keep this other person in? And that would be the precursor to having a hard conversation with them. So everyone in there now, I mean, most of the time, so there's 6 people in the group. Usually we probably have about 5 in attendance, and if someone's got a wedding or their dog died or whatever the case, something comes up, but we have pretty good attendance. I think everyone, like, I know I get something out of that, and I think it's crazy because there's a large revenue delta between some people and others. One of the things I really love is that, I don't want to reveal anyone's revenue numbers, but there's a guy doing multiple million a year, and there's another person that they just hadn't done great with their ads and just didn't work very very hard on it, or was trying to transition. And so that guy was like happy on a call, along with the rest of us, to go through her ads at a very minute level, probably not too different than what, maybe we could pay, BK or Jon to help, but like, let's set it up piece by piece. And I think that's a form of love. I don't think it's like, kissy mushy love, but like we want to see each other succeed. And sometimes you have that piece. I know you use the crabs pulling down the legs example. Sometimes you don't always have that in other pieces of your life. Your uncle or your brother probably don't give a crap about your drop shipping business. But this other person that runs one just like you and knows the struggle and also is having the people problems and has the chargebacks and knows why this thing wasn't formed in the background of Shopify, we can't give a crap about each other. And I like that part of the community a lot. And it's something that it means a lot to me, and I appreciate the group for any of them that might listen to this.
I mean, you got to find your people, right? So to your point, I'll use my brother if you're listening. Hi, Josh. Still to this day, I know he speaks to other people in our group and says, well, Ben's successful, but has he ever really done it on his own? Because all the big business I've been part of, I've been partners with people on. I love partnerships. I'm a big fan of them, of splitting up, of minds, right? Like it's a lonely journey. I don't want to do this alone, but he'll insist he's never really done it on his own, right? He's got to have that little thing that, like, which is his self-sabotage of like, well, you can't really do it alone, so I could never do it. You know what I mean? If he can't do it alone, I can't do it alone, which is hilarious to me, right? But this is why you got to find your people, right? So I found multiple people on my journey up. You have to. And I hope anyone who's listening to this, who's one of our students, who's in Slack, like, be Rob. Stand up and say, I want to lead a group, and then just put it out there and host your group, right? You're not alone. We have some other mastermind groups that are in our student base, but there could be more. Jon and I have held back from like creating them because I want them to be organic. I want them to spring up on their own. I want people to show their ambition, but it takes a lot to be like you, Rob, where you actually have hard conversations and you actually kick people out and you actually hold people accountable. That's what it takes to like run a successful one, in my opinion, is having someone at the head of the table like you.
I appreciate that. I'll say I've probably had a handful of people that reached out in one way, shape, or form, like, hey, what do you guys talk about, or what's the structure? Happy to continue to share that if anyone's looking to do it. Not saying that it's the perfect way, but it's how we started.
Yeah, I think you should share that as like a thread in Slack anyway. Just share, this is how we started. You should start too. You know what I mean? All right, let's pivot. So you have this, I'll call it the tiny house store era, if you will, right? There's another trophy behind you that says the $1 Million Club. You did over $1 million in revenue on a tiny house store. You got traction, you made sales, you built it up. But like, what did you learn from that chapter? What worked, what didn't, and what eventually made you say, I think it's time for something different?
It was a cool adventure. Tiny home equipment was neat. I don't regret starting it. You go through niche selection. You don't know what you don't know. And, I believed in what you guys say about a persona. And I'm like, oh, you know what? Wonderful wife, Jen, and I, like we're looking at some point with retirement that we'll do the tiny house thing so we can, tour around the United States. So seemed like, oh, it touches enough of things that I would know about that I can do this. And I think it did. What I wasn't thinking about, and I didn't think about it until actually you brought it to me, it was like the target market for it. Though some of them will be like I want to be in, like, oh, okay, like I'm financially fine, but I want to tour the US. A lot of them are, I'm a retiree and I have a fixed income or a low amount of income, and I'm trying to reduce my expenses as much as possible. And I know you talk about on a lot of the podcasts that you want to have the influent white male, or like you want to have people that are able to spend money. And the people that I was talking to, like they were trying to penny pinch often, and it's nothing against them. It's where they are in life, but it was a continual conversation. I don't know if I just missed this on my research. I guess I just could have asked you. I don't think I knew at the time that you had done, the other store that I don't know if I can name with your tiny home stuff. But I don't think I realized that the biggest sellers were going to be composting toilets. And it's not a fun thing to just continually talk about toilets all the time. I guess I could argue with someone else who sells similar things, but it's something that I can talk about, and I've talked about a bunch. I have one of our previous top sellers in my attic, and I have a different one that's in my shed. But I can't tell you there was any joy in my heart of like, oh my gosh, like let me talk to you about like how the composition works and like what to do with your partially decayed poop. Like it was not something that I was loving talking about by any way, shape, or form. I did try to widen the product offering a bit, but I still think that that the target avatar was still that person that was probably penny pinching and not necessarily the best ones that I'd be looking for. So you ask about like what happened with the transition, or like what was the precursors. I am around this community a lot, and I'm looking and trying to figure out like where do I fit, what do I want to do. And I definitely have the entrepreneur ADD brain where I'm thinking about different niches or different business models all together. So that's a constant thing. And at the same time, I was having those mastermind group calls, and I see people that have been in this less time than I am, that I feel like I am at least as capable as them, or comparable capable this, and I see them succeeding with either niches that I wouldn't have thought they would, or ones that I'm like, oh, I could see that. And while I don't want to directly compete against them, it makes me know that it's a true possibility, and not BK and John are scams, and they never made any revenue. And so I can see that the model works. I know that I am not where I want to be. So that obviously leads itself to what do I need to change? And so the avatar, who I want to serve, was a big portion of that. Wanting, at this point with Yard Patriots, like I was on a couple calls yesterday, and like it came out, I didn't mean for it to, like I was talking to one of the guys, and was like, you are my people. Like I got a couple questions for you. And, we were talking about, what he's doing with his properties, and like, it's fun to talk about. Like I like hearing his stories. And I talked to another guy. It's like, how are you using the tools? And it was very different than the here's what you do with your poop afterwards. And yep, you spin the top, and then you have this little spray. Like it was not enjoying those conversations. So the combination of, I knew the model worked. I knew that the conversations I was having were not the ones that I was enjoying. I could see different avenues where I know that I could be not only profitable, but or more profitable, but scalable, to use the word that you guys talk trash about. But so super happy to make the transition.
Our community is probably split down the middle. Certainly, John and I are split down the middle on what you just said. John would say, fall in love with the marketing, Rob. Like learn how to, fall in love with the fact that you're growing your business. I've been in the tiny house nest, and I'm telling you, I don't want to talk about toilets, and I certainly didn't like working with some of those people. Same with, I sold some like mobility scooters and things like that. Again, another audience I would not recommend. And so, having been on both sides of that issue personally, it led me to believe it's so much more fun over here, right? I sold golf simulators. I'm a golfer. I really enjoyed thinking about golf, marketing about golf, and doing the work on that stuff, right? And so, look, you partnered with Jon and I to build Yard Patriots. So, like, what about this opportunity felt different this time? Why this niche? Why this customer? What really stood out to you that was different than the tiny home avatar?
I'm giving you a lot of stories at this point, BK. I'm sorry. Um,
All right.
so I mentioned that I grew up on a hobby farm, and we had small amount of acreage. We had 7 acres in Maryland, but we had horses and cows. But we had tractors and the land to do wonderfulness. So like I grew up throwing hay bales and feeding the animals and doing that. So it's not something that I was unfamiliar with. It was literally something that I grew up in, running to the stables and getting muddy and all that. So it's something that fit me from that side. In the military, something that I didn't talk about was, I was a combat engineer, and the main stuff was, demolitions, landmine warfare, construction. But the engineer community as a whole, the heavy equipment falls under that structure as well. So as I moved up to be like a platoon sergeant, like I literally was a heavy equipment platoon sergeant. So having dudes with big forklifts and dozers and this heavy equipment was something that literally I had to learn about, and not just the maintenance, but how to move them. And before '03, before I went to the initial invasion of Iraq, we were literally taking like forklifts and Terex and everything, and loading the trucks with everything, or loading the boats with everything we could to send it to Iraq so that we could have the initial invasion. And like my Marines doing that, like I didn't know that was going to touch itself to the things we do today, but it resonates there. A lot of the people that I'm friends with in the military, when they retire, they want a simple life. They're not poor. They're not trying to penny pinch. But like I know a bunch of them. They're like, you know what? Like I'm just going to buy a bunch of acres out west, and whether they want to do an Airbnb or bonfires with friends, or they want to have an off-road park or equestrian, they would be buying this large acreage. And then I'd see them with a tractor and maybe four-wheelers and fun. And like, this is what these guys are doing afterwards. And I'm like, this is the group that like I resonate with them. And so like at this point in the store, like I've literally had people that I'm talking to, and they're like, I am so glad I found your store, as they're talking on the phone. Like I'm so glad I found your store, because I'd rather buy from you, like the persona, the prior service military member that's selling American equipment. Like I would rather buy from you than any of this. Like the people that come to me, they are in this store, they don't want the cheapest product that is coming from China that's going to last them 2 weeks or a month. They would rather pay double and know that the equipment's going to last them probably for the rest of their life. If they need a part, it's going to come from North Carolina, because it's made by an American man that knows how to weld and use his hands, and you're going to pick up the phone when they call you, or wherever it is. All my stuff's made in America. It has the bones. It's helping them shape their property, and it resonates with me. And when I talk to them, they're happy to take care of their property. It is a neat transition.
Well, we called out at an event and said, hey, we're considering taking on some partners, and you reached out. You wanted to partner with us. Immediately, I said, hell yeah to Rob. Like a big factor for Jon and I is the person. If we can't say yes to the person, we don't care what the business is. They could be doing amazing numbers, but if it's a no from either of us, it's been a no in the past. It'll be a no in the future, right? So we saw you. We think you're a badass. We think you can execute. We think you can really understand who you're selling to. But more importantly, the second criteria is we like the business. Like when you came to us with this idea, I do believe this is selling to affluent white males, which fits BK's criteria. We're selling high ticket stuff. We're selling repeatable things. People are going to buy one attachment from us. They might come back and buy attachments the rest of their life from us. Even beyond that was the messaging that we could do. So you came to us with this name. Yard Patriots. We could get really cute with this, if I'm honest, Rob. We could go, you could go full on MAGA, you could go full on way to the right if you wanted to and go a little crazy with it, or you could kind of stay where you are, which is truly like a patriot, man. And me too. We grew up in the greatest country in the world, and I love that we're kind of supporting that on our website with our copy, with our persona, with the way we speak, with the way we're putting our message out there. So I don't know. I'm thankful you came to us to want to partner, because this project has been fun. Now, certainly we went through the Google suspension for a while, and there were some issues with that. But sometimes you got to go through hell to get to heaven. And so I'm excited. What excites you about this business? What excites you, and how are you approaching this business differently than your first store?
So to rewind for a second, you guys made the offer out to the group. I think it was the first year, and I did not take you up on it because I still felt that I was too engaged with the military to take on more things. So though I love you guys and wanted to partner then, I did not because I knew that I just couldn't. I didn't want to dedicate the time, and just the continual answer be, I can't. I would feel like I was under executing. So that's why we didn't talk until year two. So small clarification there, but I do. I love the avatar. I look at myself as American, and I don't. And though I vote a certain way, I can't tell you that I want the brand necessarily to be political. Like, I want it to be pure American, and I think part for me, pure American is having the choice. So like, I don't think it needs to be Democratic or Republican facing. Like, the fact that you have that choice and can shape your land, like this wonderful land that we have together, however you want to, like, I think that is the beauty of it. And so like, I don't think I want to push, political pieces, but at the same time, like, I'm excited to do more content stuff. Like, I'm excited to play with it. I think I told you before, we have some log splitters and some like tornado shelters, and I think it'd be cool to take the tornado shelters to my buddy's range and put a 50 cal round through it and see, how much it holds up to. Like, I think that'd be fun. I think it'd be great to take a log splitter from China and see what the log splitter in America can do to just rip into the side of it. Like, I'm excited to do some playful things with it. That excites me. I can't tell you that I want to do any video about a composting toilet and how to flip it out. So there's definitely a transition for me. And then talking to friends, like I have buddies that own ranches. If this is an excuse for me to go out for several days to talk to one of my buddies that's a rancher and have a great time with him while making some content, sure, why the hell not? If it's an excuse for me to get a skid steer and play with attachments on the back 40, like, fuck yeah. Like, this sounds like fun. I want more fun, and if that comes with more zeros because there's more people that I'm helping because we offer great service and whatnot, like, hell yeah. Like, what I tell my daughter is, for us to win does not mean anyone else loses. Like, we all win together. Having conversations yesterday with a supplier, I know that us making more sales for them is better for them and their family. I know that it's better for our company, and I know that their products are great, and I'm going to sell it at a great price and take care of our customers, and they're going to love using it. Like, there's no loser in that chain, and I'm happy to take care of it. Super excited about it.
I love the passion. And I got to know, like, when you first started, you were still active, right? Actively serving. You probably had a different idea of what freedom was back then. What you wanted in your life, right? Now you've retired. You've dabbled in entrepreneurship. You're going pretty hard on this business with us, which is awesome. I genuinely expect this business to be pretty damn big. But I bet your idea of freedom has changed, right? From the time you signed up for a course where you weren't even sure if I was a scam or not to today. What does freedom look like for you? Like, are you chasing time freedom or financial freedom or work you enjoy, which you kind of mentioned there? Or like, what are you actually chasing here?
I think it's a combination for sure. I don't know if I include you in all these messages, but like, I'm huge into automations and SOPs and processes on the background. So my conversation with my team is that we are built, I want to build it now, everything we need to 10x. Like, I want the SOPs to be there where when I need to double the people in a position where it's not going, oh crap, how did you do that? Like, I want to document along the way so that we can, like, we don't have the customers that are having a terrible experience because we're going through a growth mode. So what I think about there is, like, I want to have a business that can succeed without me or BK or John like pressing buttons in the background. So that to me definitely is a piece of time freedom. Our household for Jen and I, we are a dual income household. So I want to give for my wife the opportunity where neither one of the business can take care of our monthly burn for both of us, and where that's an option. But realistically for me, and I can't tell you I have every piece of this. The thing that I really love from the idea of like entrepreneurship is like I think that first business is like a stepping stone. I think of it as like you need to be able to take care of your own house. You need to take care of your own expenses. And then from there, you can kind of delve into more passion projects. So, if I'm taking care of our burn and have some extra, time and money, then that means like, cool, I can devote resources, time and money, to things that make me feel good. And maybe that's philanthropy. Maybe that's a different business that serves more people. Maybe that is just helping other people. But I love that idea of like, I can build this enough to give back more, to do more things. And that's the next step. Cause I mentioned the dude watching Westerns at home and news. Like, I don't want that. My idea of how I want to spend 50s and 60s and 70s is having businesses that mean something to me, that are having a great impact in the world. And I say business, but it might be an organization. Maybe it's a 501c3. I don't look at that as the structure is going to be too much different. So why would I not learn and build here and then apply that to other things that I have grown to care about or also love?
Well, I pulled up on the side here our business and did a little quick math while you were talking there. You want the SOPs to 10x, right? You want some of these things in the business to 10x. 100% chance we 100x this business, if not 200 or 300x this business. And so, start working on those SOPs a little harder. I'm as excited about this business as you are. I think there's just so many products. There's a lot of work to do to get the full breadth of everything that we can possibly have on this business. But it's showing signs of potential greatness already. And for me, I'm just excited to have another business at 8 figures. I don't like doing this. So this stuff is so much fun. So I'm excited where we're going. I think I have a different idea of freedom than most people. Like I just want to do what I want to do every day, and I'm addicted to this shit. So like, why wouldn't I just want to keep doing? Like, if I had enough money, which I don't even know what that number is, but let's say we reach whatever fictional number that is you put in your head, I would still probably be doing shit. Like, it's still fun. I don't know. I like thinking about this stuff.
So I assume right now for you, if you didn't work this next month, I'm assuming you've got your monthly burn covered. And I assume you could probably do that for 6 months. And I'm not trying to get into your financials. So like that to me means for you that you get to decide, what am I passionate about? And I think that is the true time freedom. And for you, it's this business and you're helping people, I assume, correct me if I'm wrong. And like, I think there's so much power in that. And I love the impact that you've had. Am I getting that right for you? Or don't let me put words in your mouth.
Thankfully I had a pretty big exit on one of my businesses quite a few years back, right? And so I've been in that position for a while, where it's maybe not forever, but it's for a while. I can make choices that I want to make, which is a wonderful place to be, like you mentioned, right? John and I can help people with this course. Or recently we launched the Low Bar podcast, where we can talk about all the stuff that John and I like to geek out about, business opportunities and whatnot. At the same time, we can partner with you, and we have other partners from our student base, where it's like I get to hang out with these really cool people building a really cool business. And so I don't know where that leads. Who knows where that is in 10 years, but that's my goal. That's my freedom, right? It's just doing what I want to do every day. I can't imagine being told what to do anymore, or having to do things. Like I just want to do what BK wants to do.
That's awesome.
Walk me through. Let's wrap this up with some advice, right? So what's one thing you know now that you wish you knew when you started?
Going back to the BK and John aren't full of crap. I fully believe that they built and grew and scaled and sold their businesses. Obviously, I haven't looked at your financials to know that as 100% fact, but like I truly believe that. But even if it wasn't for you guys, I know that my mastermind group and people in our course, like they are reaching that on a regular basis. So I believe in the model because I believe in the people. And that has been a difference for me.
There's some other people in the world who sell something similar to what John and I sell, like teaching this business model. And they use our students in their sales calls. And I always wondered, like, how do they get away with that shit? Like, we've had those people on our podcast, and then they'll be like, this is one of our students, he's doing these numbers, which are totally wrong. And then you buy their course and you get in there and they're not there. Doesn't that like raise every red flag in the book that you got bamboozled? Where like you can go listen, we've done 400 episodes, we've probably done 20, 30, 40 of them with students and with people who've been through our course. They're all in there. You want to meet Rob, hop into our course and hop into Slack and just type in @Rob. You're going to find Rob, right? And there's been lots of other people who've been on this podcast and they're all in there too, right? And so yeah, anyone who's stuck in that position, I get it, because you cannot, if you click on one ad on Facebook, you're going to get a lot of ads from all different types of business models. And John and I have a folder that we share where I save a bunch of the ones that are like, really, some of them are terrible. They make unbelievable claims, and no one's really monitoring that claim space at the low levels. And so I get it to a point, but I hope people listening to this come to the same conclusion that you did of like, okay, all right, these guys are actually legitimate. They seem authentic. And then again, they can hop in our Slack and meet you and meet Holly and meet all of the other people who've been on this pod.
The only, I don't want to say counter, but the only second thought that I would put to people being on multiple reviews or feedback is, you guys obviously came from a different course. That course is still around, and you aren't the only ones that came from that. So there are people that have had multiple courses. So I know I've heard some of the people that are successful in your course and also took the other be in multiples, but I don't think those are the ones you're necessarily talking about.
No, those are cool because there's a reason we built this, right? John and I both took a different course to start, and it literally just taught you how to start. So that's like a third of our course. And then there's 2/3 of it, how to grow your business, that John and I had to learn actually growing our businesses. And so to watch people who like came from that community and then came to our events, I can picture one Australian gal very specifically who came to our event. I spieled everything I was going to put in the SEO course inside of our course at that event. And a month later, she messaged me. She's like, hey, I did all that stuff and my traffic has doubled, right? Like, how did you not know this for the last 6 years? Like, I didn't know it either, right? And so like, it's cool to watch people who have been elsewhere come into our stuff and go, oh, wow, this is way better, right? So, and that's not to say John and I don't have our own faults. Google changes all the time, so it's hard for us to keep up on all of our videos to make sure it's all on the latest iteration of the screen that's on there. But the principles are the same, and marketing, as John would say, hasn't changed in 100 years.
I know you guys get some slack about like, hey, this button changed from when you recorded it 2 years ago, or and I'm sure it really sucks to try to go back there. I will say, I think the reality is like, if you showed where the button is, you can Google it pretty easily, or chat GPT, how do you do this thing? I look at those as excuses for like, you can only handhold so much.
What is the term? Rorschach test? Is this a Rorschach test of like, if you like, can people just figure this out? If you can't figure out a little change that's happened in interface, like you have to be able to figure stuff out as an entrepreneur. And so that's not the, poo-poo on anyone who can't figure it out, but you got to have that. I'm going to go solve it. I'm going to go figure it out. But I do remember, man, I vividly remember my first few months, and like any little thing that told me this wasn't going to work or I couldn't figure it out, I was finding every reason to try to look for a reason to validate that I'm not worthy of this. I'm not capable of this. This won't work. I should just be the factory worker that I am. That's all I know. I'm not special enough. These people know something, like whatever it was. In fact, I remember a post in the forum where someone was doing pellet grills and he was like, pellet grills don't work. Don't sell pellet grills. Whole long post on it. And I was devastated. I built brickfirebbq.com. That was going to be my first store. And I remember reaching out to, a bunch of prominent figures in that course. And they were like, dude, these people come and go all the time. Don't listen to them. Like, just because it didn't work for him doesn't mean it wouldn't work for you. I didn't believe them. I abandoned it. I switched into 3D printers because of that. But in hindsight, it was like, oh yeah, I see it now, right? From this side, I see it. And I try to speak in different words now to help the person in the beginning, because I totally get it. All right, one last question, Rob. So I don't want to call it reinvented, but you went from the military to civilian and being an entrepreneur. And like, I know there's other veterans listening to this who are going to make that transition, or they are thinking about making that transition. So do me a favor, speak directly to the veteran who's watching this right now going, man, can I do this too?
One of the programs that's out there, I can't think of what it's called right now, but it's like a transition program where you take and you get paid for your last like couple months of the military, and you can learn how to do a job, and the military is still paying you, and you literally work somewhere else. I can't think of it right now, but like, I've debated doing that to take people, because one, like, they could help me and do great things. At the same time, like, I believe in this, and so I've had a lot of conversations with, usually it's like the E4 that's getting out of the military, and they have so many great options. And if you're getting out of the military, like, you have so many great options. Like, do you go back to school? Are you going to get that W-2? Are you just going to live off that retirement? And if you want something more, like, why would you not create something that you care about? And so, like, this for me is something that I created, something that I care about. Like, I'm able to shape it. So you in the military, you were probably there, and you've probably had some great command teams and some other leadership where it wasn't so great. Like, you get to build whatever you want here. Do you want to be the solopreneur and you can have all the pieces, and you maybe have just a couple $1,000s on the side? Like, cool. Like, you can do that. Like, do you want something bigger where you have, you're selling several $1,000,000 and you get, a couple $100,000 at the end? Like, you can do that too. And you can have a team that runs it, and you can have something that you're passionate about. So this isn't for everyone, but if you don't want to sit at home and do something, you want to invest your time, like, this for me was a good fit, because I get to talk to people that I care about. I get to, like, I'm not robbing from anyone. Like, I am a integral part of the process where, like, I'm helping both sides. I'm helping the supplier, I'm helping the customer, and I like being that piece of it. So if you as a transitioning military member, like, you know what, I want something. I don't want to do nothing. I want to have something that's stable, that I can depend on for years to come. It doesn't take a lot to start, or it's even something you can start before you're out. It's a pretty awesome model. If you join, hit me up. I'm happy to have a conversation with you or help any way I can.
Yeah, I'm the same way. We don't have a military specific offer on our website, but I'll make one right now. Send me an email. It's ben@ourwebsite.com. I'll make you a special deal. Rob will verify your service for me, because he knows how to do that. But if that's a real deal, I'll give you a deal better than we publicly put anywhere, for sure, to come join us, because I think it's really special what you're doing, Rob. I have a soft spot in my heart. I don't know enough about the military community. I'm married into a family of that, and so I'm learning as I go. Again, I try not to just only know the Call of Duty side of things. I actually want to learn, and everyone I've met is special. Like, all of you guys are special. You're doing something I genuinely don't think I would be capable of doing. And so if I can give back in some way, shape, or form to that community and help you start a business, I want to do that.